Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. We are here with our good friend Bryce from Flatirons Church. Make some noise for Bryce. Woo, 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 woo. Sound effects, this big crowd, live studio audience. You know how
That's
Can't hear them.
Yeah, I was wondering how this works in the podcast setting.
Yeah. I normally have headphones that you can hear them a little bit, but
Great.
yeah.
Well, Bryce, man, tell us a little bit who you are. Lots of people follow what you guys do at Flatirons, and I wanted to sit down. Casey and I were like, man, let's sit down and talk to Bryce and really just help people know who you guys are, who's behind the curtain of all the amazing production and things that are going on at Flatirons Church. So tell us a little bit about who you are, man.
Great. Thanks so much for letting me join you guys. Love hanging out with you guys and having the opportunity to be here today for this event we're having at Summit. It's awesome. I'm really excited. Our team is we have a great production team at Flatirons. We're trying to oversee some live weekend services again. You know, churches in full bore, full production.
Yeah.
We've got campuses, we've got broadcasts, a lot of things to think about. And one thing I'm just so excited and thrilled about is that our team is just all hands in. We're all on board to go, how are we rebuilding the house today? How do we take the things we've learned over the last year in a whole different scenario, different situation by post-producing church and not in person, and now go, how do we take those lessons that we've learned and apply that to what we're doing today, and how is that maybe different than what we did a couple years ago?
Let's talk about that because so I've been around the church world for years. You know, I was a creative and worship pastor, but never have had to do it through COVID and through the lens of COVID. Talk to us through, what's that been like for you guys as a church, having to pivot, and how much have you had to pivot? What have you done differently as a team? What are some of those conversations and tensions that you guys are having? You mentioned a term, rebuilding the house.
Yeah.
How much of that house have you had to rebuild?
Ooh, it depends on how you look at it. We've had personnel changes, we've had technology changes, we've had financial changes, we've had viewership changes. So just there's, depending on what angle you look at it from, there's definitely been a lot of variation over the last year. But all in all, we look at this season as a season of rebuilding and regrowth. And we want to take, like I said, the lessons we learned this last year where our creativity was really stretched. To me, it was, I think God ultimately was just saying, hey, I want to utilize the creatives. I want to reach in and pull out, provide a unique opportunity for those who have had outside of the box thinking and ideas to let those come to life now, and then over the long run see how those could affect what the future for the church looks like. So yeah, it's been hard, it's been challenging because we're just rethinking a lot of things. That might be everything from an example would be we used to have a very prepared service from start to back. Yeah. We'd have a rehearsal process. We'd have a solid day to work on certain programming things and virtual sound check. Then we'd have a Saturday full service dress rehearsal with full message to an empty room.
Yeah, you guys are big. 2
services and then 2 more services on Sunday and the multi-site stream. Now it's our timeline's condensed and we're really trying to execute on a high level, but with a lot less of that preparation.
Yeah. So has that timeline been condensed on purpose or just by default, because of the way you guys are operating?
By the nature of just of fewer people, as people slowly start to figure out what church has meant in their life and how they want to be a part of that community in different ways. Yeah. Maybe that's affected online numbers. Online has gone up significantly, but in-person attendance just looks different today than it did. Wow. So there's just something to really think about. So we only have Sunday services now, and we do have a rehearsal, but trying to figure out a core value at Flatirons is high execution and production. That's really important.
Why is that you guys' value? What's the why behind that concept, behind that mindset?
I think a lot of people are the original kind of way that we elevated that value was just because in this area, in particular, in the Boulder, Colorado area, which is phenomenal, love this place, and love the culture here, love the people here. There's just a high degree of church skepticism, of different spiritual thoughts and approaches to what God means and there's definitely a very open approach to, well, that's what you believe, that's great. Don't infringe your ideas on me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And while that, I'm sure there's a sense of that everywhere.
Yeah.
In Boulder, it's just a unique culture. And so if we have the opportunity for somebody to come through our doors and find community, find people with authentic personalities, with a desire to create community, and with everything pointing at like the true character of who Jesus was, not just like a fictional thing or somebody in a book.
Yeah.
Gosh, we just don't want to mess up that opportunity. Like, we just hold that as such a high value of that. We're going to create this environment where Jesus is seen so clearly, and the quality of what we do on a weekend, from the parking lot situation through the full service production, is just held really important, so people can just see Jesus.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Man,
awesome.
we earlier when you guys came in, like Flatirons came in rolling deep. You guys brought like 12 people to this event, and I was like,
crew.
"Hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up, man? Whoa, this is wow! I hadn't seen you. Like, it was just so many people. Talk to us about. I don't know. Have you been to an MxU event before? Was this your first?
I've been to a few. It's a first for a lot of our team. And then I've been really fortunate to get to know Jeff and Lee and Andrew Stone over time, and be able to rub elbows with them, which has been a real honor and a privilege. I will say one thing that's exciting about today is like we're operating at a really high capacity with a lot fewer staff than we used to. That's like one of our current challenges, is how do we empower volunteers to have a high degree of ownership in the church, and how do we have versus a high degree of staff where volunteers kind of fill in the cracks.
Yeah.
There's no volunteers filling in the cracks. Like, it is a volunteer-led organization.
Very cool.
And our staff is just trying to put some structure to that. So for an event like today, I thought it was more important to bring our guys who are running our campuses, for some friends of ours that we've connected with in the area who haven't been exposed to this before. I brought a good friend who mixes with the Colorado Symphony, and a guy who's a professor at the university downtown Denver. And I was like, hey, you guys got to see what's going on in this in this church realm, because what we're doing, what we're chasing after, what we're learning applies to so much more than just church.
That's
and
so cool.
I think it really points to the character that there's just MxU in particular has a high emphasis on character of how we interact with other people, musicians, producers, artist management, pastors, leaders, all that. And that just applies everywhere. It's just a lot of common sense.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, we were just talking to Jeff and Lee a little bit ago, and that was one of the things that Jeff was talking about, was specifically that, like, yes, learning the audio skills, learning the skills that we're doing is great, and like learning from each other and critiquing each other to help each other is awesome, but like, it's so much more about who you are as a person rather than just the skill set you bring. And so like the fact that they bring that into this realm of like a non-conference, however you want to describe it, that I feel like is so beneficial for churches and for church production staffs and volunteers. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
what you guys do, man, is amazing at Flatirons, and we've partnered with you guys for a while, and I'm always blown away, when we have other churches that are following you guys and learning from you online. And if you guys haven't, if you're watching, if you haven't seen any of Flatirons services, check them out. They do an incredible job with how they conduct their services week to week, the production, the worship, the teaching, everything is just at such a high level of excellence, and the way in which you guys see that, there's always no stone unturned. But the thing I also love is anytime another church is wanting to learn from you guys are always ready to just open your door and, hey, come do a tour. Hey, come check this out. I see you at other events, and you're like, hey, getting to know people. I love that. Is that part of the DNA of the culture that you guys push in your production team, or is that something that just goes throughout the church and the ministry, just that heart to serve? That's
a really good question. For me personally, I don't know if any of you guys listening have heard of the five voices. It's kind of one of these things that's like similar to Enneagram or something. And so my higher voices are pioneer and connector. So I really love or think of things through the lens of like, how does this connect people together?
That's cool.
And then I also think about like strategic process and how do we get from place A to place B over time. Those are kind of like my focus areas, and I also have a lot of other weaknesses too. So it kind of balances out.
As we all.
I love those personality tests that show you your strengths, but also here's where you're really bad at life.
Yeah,
so
totally.
You can work on those if you want.
Right. For me personally,
let's talk about those.
So for our team, we're generally high on connection. We just like really love connecting with other people. That's really important because, to be honest, I think we've gone through a time where like Flatirons had a high confidence in what we did pre-COVID because, I mean, people would jokingly refer to it as like the machine, the machine keeps turning week in, week out. We're just going to we have this process to create this content. And that can feel good after a while, and that's dangerous. And so, there's this process, and then we had a whole different process over COVID. And I think if nothing else, even though it stretched some creativity, it also just gave us a different perspective on humility, because we have so much to learn from still.
That's cool.
That's why events like MxU today are so important, because just to be in an environment where people are like, we're learning from one another. To see Jeff and Lee and Adam Taylor, gosh, man, it was so awesome to see him in the mix today, to just go, man, these are some of the best mix engineers in existence, and yet they're still learning new things together. It's like, wow, we're going to take a cue from that.
It's crazy. We were talking to him earlier, and I was like, is it weird at first, like, to sit in a room and be critiqued by your peers in front of a bunch of other people you've never met before? It's like, wow, this is because I don't know that. As a worship leader, I don't know that would work with worship leaders. Worship leaders might start crying.
I thought of that. That's a good point.
Like, I'm a worship leader, so I can say that. Like, that may not work.
Yeah.
With some, I think it has to do with the culture, though. It's the culture that's actually, invited into whatever that is. I think if it's the culture, it should be. Honestly, it should be that way. I was at a church when I was at Church on the Move. That was a culture there. Like, whenever you took the stage, we always had worship leaders that were critiquing us, that were out, that may not have been scheduled that week. And I love that. I love the culture that's being pushed at these events. And man, like guys like you that are incredible, front house engineers or production directors that are coming and bringing your teams to learn and grow and push each other. Have there been any other of these events, people that you meet, maybe rubbing shoulders with other churches that you go, oh man, maybe this is another local church that I haven't been around? Has there been any of that kind of camaraderie?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I consider all the guys over at Red Rocks Church like really dear friends, and we've learned so much from them. There's things that God has uniquely equipped their church to do that our church doesn't do, and vice versa. And that's been amazing to like mix things up with them. We've had some of their staff or contractors or friends kind of help us in a season where we've need to fill in roles and gaps, and that's been hugely helpful. So we have each other's back there. And then really, I mean, there's a number of churches in the Denver area that we try to keep in contact with, and I'd say our worship team has embodied this really well, where our worship team has helped other churches, and then other churches have helped us when we need musicians, and our team's trying to take a cue from that too. Like, hey, what can we learn from other churches in the area? So there's a number that we've connected with, and I just love doing that.
That's so cool, man. Real quick, before we wrap things up, tell us real quickly what, and I don't know if you could do this even quickly, but why production and why in the church? I mean, at the level that you are doing this on, there's a lot of probably mainstream opportunities and things like that, but why the church? Why have you spent so much time doing production in the church world? What's the why behind the what?
That's a really great question. I'm sure I could think about that a while and then formulate an answer. So just kind of instant. This is just off the cuff here. So if I'm off the cuff, honestly, music's a huge part of my life, and I underestimated the value of singing psalms and praises to God. Like, I love all kinds of music, but in the, like, as I started to grow my career, the pursuit that I was chasing after was actually conducting orchestra. I wanted to be an orchestra conductor.
Wow.
So that basically that came from a place of like, I do think musically, like if you guys have had the opportunity to hear like a really high level professional symphony orchestra, it's one of the most powerful sounds in existence.
Yeah.
There's no better example of like powerful harmony and like the term ensemble and how these pieces work together to create like a full spectrum sound that's just unbelievable. Like if you hear a Mahler symphony just at full bore with a 140 piece orchestra, it's mind blowing. Yeah. And so I was really lucky to be able to spend some time like recording orchestra, and that's kind of like my original kind of background foray into audio. And I really wanted to conduct, but the thing is, I found myself like I couldn't say no to like audio gigs. Like I keep getting these recording gigs, and the reason that was I found a lot of fulfillment in that, just because I mean technology is awesome. I don't have to tell you guys that. Like you talk a lot about how do we leverage the power of technology to share the gospel, and it just made me realize like maybe what I was seeking after originally was. How do we I loved leveraging technology to share a message, to share it, whether musical or like how do we leverage technology to share concepts or marketing or whatever. So one of our guys on our team, he says language is community. And so the language that we use in different audiences and who we're talking to creates a sense of community. And I noticed that the orchestra on stage and off stage, there's this sense of community that happens. People could not talk to each other at all, but when you play in the same, like I play upright bass, so like in the bass section, like you just the mere fact that you're playing bass with other people, like you have this unspoken bond with them. Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that, but that shifted to the church world for me. Honestly, after visiting Flatirons for the first time, my wife and I had both grown up in the church. Actually grew up in the same church.
Oh, that's cool.
And we were kind of looking for a new place to call home and wanted to branch out there. This was 10 years ago now. And we stepped foot into Flatirons, and I was like, oh my gosh, the community here, the language that they use, the way that they speak about this, it gives me a whole new perspective and refreshing look on the Bible. And I had been working in sales, audio sales. I was working for some microphone companies, and my wife said, "What do you really want to do?" Because I was fairly unchallenged in what I was doing. I was working for a company, and the business was selling things really well. It was profitable. There was really high-end products. It was all nice and great, but the challenge level was really low. And I think that we are called as Christians to really better ourselves all the time. Like God. Like our relationship with Jesus is making me better all the time. Like I'm trying to become a better person, more Christ-like, and get to know Jesus better. Yeah. And so that should just naturally come out in ways where we are bettering ourselves in our work and our communication and our quality all the time. So my wife said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to mix sound at Flatirons. Like I want that to be my job." And we lived on the East Coast at the time. And lo and behold, I mean, this is one of the most like. This doesn't happen to everybody. I can't point to a bunch of examples of it. I don't want to hyper spiritualize it, but I'm like, wow. When an audio position came up at Flatiron, shortly after I remember saying that to her, I was like, I really feel called in this direction to combine love for Jesus with musical expression and leveraging technology. And so that was kind of like a segue into the why for me. Yeah. And so that's just a little bit of my own story. And I'm sorry, I know you meant that in the context of like our team and what we're chasing after. But
no, I wanted to hear about your story.
Oh, I appreciate it.
It was definitely, I think we're grateful for you guys, man, and what you guys do, and you, especially for what you do with the team. We see you a lot, whether it's on the road or here locally. You're like in our backyard. So we love what you guys are doing. We love Flatirons. If you guys have not seen what they do, or if you want to check more out, where do they find you guys online?
Flatironschurch.com.
Super easy.
Super easy.
Most people think it's flat irons, like two separate words. Yeah. Like there's these irons that are flat. I've actually not known an iron that's not flat.
Yeah, but they're normally...
Yeah, but just to clear it up for the record, since I have the opportunity here, the flat irons refer to a rock formation that is in Boulder. There's these three rocks that look like flat irons. than they stick up out of the rocks. And so if you're wondering, what does that even mean?
Flatirons.
They refer to some rock formations here in the beautiful state of Colorado, which I'm grateful to live in.
Beautiful,
Which end up
beautiful.
leading to a really great logo, you know.
Yeah, the logo works.
if you're thinking that way.
Something, all logos around here either have some form of flat iron or mountain.
Yeah,
Or,
there's like a billion summits
Yeah.
in like a 3-mile radius from us,
Yeah.
and none of them do anything remotely close to each other.
No.
There's like
Yeah.
a Summit
The
Bank,
carpet
there's
cleaning
us,
company,
there's a carpet.
yeah.
There's just
it's all over the
yeah.
place.
You know you're in
Gas
Colorado
stations.
when.
Yeah.
Cool.
Guys, thanks for watching us today. Bryce, thanks so much for joining us, man. That was good. We don't have to work on
Yeah,
that.
it's,
We don't have to work on that one. But
My social skills are a weakness.